19th century, they were facing challenges from Persia in the west and the rising Sikh Empire in the east. And, well, internal conflicts never help either. The empire fragmented into smaller states.
Kind of a familiar pattern here, huh? Rise and fall of empires. But amidst this fragmentation, did any new power emerge within Afghanistan?
The Barakzai dynasty came to prominence in the 19th century. Dost Muhammad Khan, he was a key figure all about reunifying Afghanistan.
Sounds ambitious.
Oh, he was. And he even had some run-ins with the British Empire, who were, let's just say, pretty keen on expanding their influence in the region.
The British. Always up to something, weren't they? It seems like every corner of the world has a British Empire chapter in its history. Tell me more about this clash. How did the Afghans and the British come head to head?
So the British were busy, expanding their control over India. They saw Afghanistan as this potential buffer zone against Russian influence in Central Asia.
So Afghanistan becomes this, like, pawn in their imperial game.
Exactly. They called it the Great Game, this high-stakes chess match between these two empires, with Afghanistan caught right in the middle.
I bet that didn't sit well with the Afghans.
You're right. The Afghans, they had this long history of resisting invaders, and they weren't about to become pawns in someone else's game.
So how did they resist?
Well, the British launched 3 wars against them, trying to control the region.
3 wars. That's a lot of fighting. They must have really wanted Afghanistan. What were these wars like?
Let's just say the British learned a few hard lessons about Afghan resilience. The first one, the First Anglo-Afghan War, back in 1839 to 1842. It ended really badly for the British. Their entire army massacred during their retreat from Kabul.
Wow, that's a brutal defeat.
It was. The Second Anglo-Afghan War, 1878 to 1880, that was another bloody affair. The British eventually got some control over Afghanistan's foreign relations, but it came at a heavy cost.
So even the mighty British Empire couldn't completely subdue the Afghans. It says a lot about their determination to stay independent. But what happened after these wars? Did the British eventually give up on their great game in Afghanistan?
Eventually, yeah. By the early 20th century, they had other things to worry about, global challenges. And they finally recognized Afghanistan's independence in 1919.
So after centuries of being, like, caught between empires, Afghanistan was finally free to chart its own course. What happened next? Did they embrace this newfound independence?
The early 20th century, it was a time of both hope and turmoil. King Amanullah Khan, he came to power after that Third Anglo-Afghan War. He was a real visionary, believed in modernization and reform.
So a reformer king trying to shake things up. What kind of changes did he make?
He introduced new laws, expanded education. He even promoted women's rights. Pretty radical for the time.
Yeah, definitely ahead of his time.
He also tried to break the power of those traditional tribal leaders. That didn't make him too popular in some circles.
Yeah.